ready to talk hockey. Streaming from the Oilers Live Studio. Subscribe or follow today.
Hey, it's Michael here with another edition of Oilers Live Tuesday. Big day for me, actually, as we launch the Heavy Hockey Network on heavyhockey.com. To kick that off, a guy that I've been trying to connect with for some time and a show that I really enjoy listening to, Mr. Cody Jansen from the World Hockey Report. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Man, happy to be here. Talk some Oilers, talk hockey. Season's almost here.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I mean, we're not far away now, right? Like a couple of weeks. And I mean, what a perfect day to talk hockey after a game like last night. Didn't feel like preseason.
No, it was an interesting game. There was a lot of a feel-out process, too. And I was, in the building. So it kind of had a different vibe. There really wasn't that many fans there. It's not a jab at Oilers fans. It was a Monday night. There really wasn't that much atmosphere in the building. But again, it started out a little weird. The Flames bury a couple. They get up 3-0. Then all of a sudden, they just went flat. And all of a sudden, the Oilers got a couple of power play opportunities, couple of bounces go their way. Markstrom gets taken out. Puljujarvi scores. Things were just working for the Oilers. That's just exactly how hockey is. And they get the power play going, and boom, they'll capitalize at will sometimes.
Yeah, they really do. That power play is something else. I mean, who knows, how many penalties they're going to get in the regular season. But if it goes on this track, and now that you got Hyman and Puljujarvi going at, Puljujarvi is really going on all cylinders now. If he, carries that through the regular season, it's potentially the best power play we've ever seen.
I actually think, and this might be a hot take, I've talked about it before, though, is that if Puljujarvi continues this trend, he could potentially, him and Hyman could end up replacing a Nugent Hopkins on the power play. They just have that much more lethal dynamics to their game than Nugent Hopkins. And don't get me wrong, he's an awesome. I mean, if Nugent Hopkins is on your top power play, you're not complaining. But again, the way Puljujarvi seems to have progressed, the way Hyman chases down pucks, his net front presence. I mean, if you go with Barrie, Draisaitl, McDavid, Hyman, Puljujarvi on your power play, you're still laughing. I mean, that's an unbelievable first unit.
It is unbelievable. I mean, it's nice to have a little bit of depth on your power play, no doubt, especially when it's your top power play that you can ask for depth. And even, you say that, and you could take Barrie off the D and put either Nurse or Bouchard on there, and you still have a hell of a D-man that's on your power play. There's depth on that power play. Like and I mean, when you have Draisaitl and McDavid, there's really any host of different combinations you can put on there. You just get Draisaitl the puck in the right spot, and he seems to find a way. That goal that he scored on the power play, it didn't look like there was any room there.
No, he's just an unbelievable finisher. I mean, when you talk about some of the best shooters in the league, he has to be in that conversation of not even just like top 10 anymore. It's like top 5 or top 3. I mean, he's deadly. What else does he need to do to get in the top 5 players in the NHL conversation?
Yeah, well, this year, though, right? NHL. Yeah, NHL.com actually put him as number 3 this year, right? Which I thought was a big step up. I said this when he scored 50 goals, the year he scored 50, I said he was the least talked about NHLer to ever score 50 goals. And it wouldn't, anybody else on any other team, if not playing on the same team as McDavid, would be talked about and celebrated. And here's a guy that was, right there for the Rocket Richard, and nobody was talking about him the next year. And then finally he won the Hart. I think people kind of stepped up and realized that, when McDavid went injured and the Oilers still went on a hot streak, that he was more than just a guy that plays alongside McDavid. He's outstanding.
Yeah, and it gives Tippett also the flexibility where he can load up a line at the end of games. And it was interesting enough to see him put Puljujarvi out there with McDavid and Draisaitl at the end instead of a Hyman. We're talking about Edmonton media is all talking about, Hyman, Olympic team this, Olympic team that. Hyman's going to change the game. Well, he's the one sitting on the bench when they need a goal because they're trusting Puljujarvi more. I get it. He had a hot stick. It was preseason. It was Calgary, whatever. They're flat out choosing Puljujarvi over Zach Hyman in must-score situations. That says enough to me.
Yeah, I 100%. Now here, look, this brings up something else though, because I actually missed the first 2 periods of last night's game. I caught the condensed version after, which is I didn't miss much. I mean, I missed the Oilers sleeping in the first period. It makes me wonder though. Like I get into the third period and there's Tippett already putting Draisaitl and McDavid in preseason together to grab a goal. Is this something that we should be, either celebrating that we have the opportunity to do that, or worrying that Tippett goes too often to the well with Draisaitl and McDavid and not getting any consistency on those top 2 lines?
That's interesting, but I would call it smart coaching, if anything, because he knows come regular season time, this is what he's going to have to do. If they're down by a goal against the Calgary Flames in the regular season, do you want them just to keep rolling the same, 2 lines? Or do you want them to stack up line and say, hey, guys, you can take a 60, 90-second shift, just go score? So I think it's preparation for the season, right? It's preseason for everyone, including Dave Tippett, and he knows that he's got to get these guys some reps together because when it comes to meaningful hockey, if they need a goal, he's going to them. So might as well give them a few shifts together, at least. Even I think they did play most of the third, or at least the last 10 minutes together. But still, this is preseason for them also, and it would be pointless not to play them ever in the preseason as a trio. And then in the regular season, when you need a goal, be like, well, go out there, try build some chemistry now.
Yeah. I mean, I know exactly what you're saying. I find it hard to believe those two wouldn't find chemistry together, just the level of talent they've got.
For sure.
James on YouTube says, how good does Koskinen look right now? I mean, it was obviously a shaky
saves.
First, but yeah, he did
make some good saves. There was a couple of goals that obviously he wants back. Like everyone's going, oh, his glove hand. They get the Gaudreau goal. Well, Gaudreau was on a breakaway and he puts a perfectly placed shot post and in, got stuck in the net. No one even knew where it went. That's how good it was. So I would never fault the goaltender for that. And we also got to consider that you just got to be one save better than the guy at the other end of the ice. And that's Jacob Markstrom, who Koskinen out-dueled. I don't care if it's preseason or not. Koskinen was the better goaltender. That's all you need on a nightly basis. He's your backup.
Grant Fuhr had a Hall of Fame career being one save better, right? So
exactly.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think, when you look at that, love or hate Gaudreau, and as an Oilers podcast, I hate Gaudreau, but the guy's still got a ton of talent, and he might not show up come playoff time, but he can shoot the puck, he can pick his spots, and he didn't get called Johnny Hockey because he was shit on the ice, that's for sure. So you can give him that. A breakaway, I think he's the last guy you want on the Flames going on a breakaway. He's probably going to bury it, more often than not. So I'll give Koskinen the break on that. I expect him. I don't know. You tell me, but I expect him to come out with a half decent season this year. I think last year was an anomaly. He had and he talked about it quite openly. I mean, and people don't realize the personal side of this game, but he talked about how it was different. He didn't have his family there. He's in he's not at home in Edmonton. That's not his home. So, I think a lot can be said about that. You think he's out? You think he's going to be 2 years ago Koskinen or last year Koskinen?
I was going to tell. I can't predict the future. Yeah. You know what? I don't want to be too harsh on the guy because it's a new season. Give him a fresh new slate, right? That's what you do for everyone. You can't just kind of pretend that last season didn't happen, but you also can't pretend like, hey, he's not an NHL goaltender by any means. Because he is an NHL goaltender. It's just, what role are you going to play him in? Are you going to play him in a starter's role where he's going to start the first 11, 12 games of the season without preseason? Or are you going to give him a backup role where he's expected to play once or twice a week? He's going to, complement Mike Smith and his starting abilities. Or, is Dave Tippett going to expect Koskinen to push for a starter's role? I don't think that's the case. I don't think there's any pressure on him to be the number one guy in Edmonton. the pressure comes is that you can't be losing games against Arizona, Anaheim, LA, and San Jose because Koskinen lets in 3 in the first period. That's soft. If he's not doing that, then you're fine. You just got to make one more save, and as a backup goaltender, be above 500, and you're fine.
Yeah, I'm 100% on board with that. I'm not I'm certainly not down on Koskinen. I think that there's a guy there that has been an NHL caliber goalie for a number of years. If you talk to, you've got a goalie background, do you not?
Yeah. You can talk out.
Yeah. So I mean, but I've talked to a lot of goalies about Koskinen, and they all feel like he's got the good mechanics of the game. He sees the puck well, and a lot of good things about him. In fact, the guys that I find that are on Koskinen's side seem to be guys that understand playing net versus us lowly forwards or defense that are out there that never stopped a puck in our life except when it hit us in the skate.
See, it's so easy to criticize them from watch it on TV or watch from the stands point, but you kind of bring up the life aspect, and that's another one that no one is going to understand unless you've played professional, played in the NHL. And for that matter of fact, even if you've never played through a pandemic, you've never played in a season without fans, you've never played in a season where the guys can't go out for wings and beer after a big win. It's different for absolutely everyone. Plus, you throw an absolute curveball in on he's one of 2 Finnish players on the team, one of less than 5 Europeans on the team. He's away from his family, his wife, his kids, whatnot. Like, this is such an unheard of circumstance that to judge him based on strictly his on ice, yeah, you're going to say, hey, it was subpar. But so was his quality of life. So was his 8 months grinding it out just to play in the NHL and make a paycheck. I mean, the matter of the fact is they're still human and they're going to make mistakes. And for Koskinen, sure, he found out he wasn't meant to be a starter in the NHL. That's fine. So are 30 plus other guys.
Yeah, I'm in that 31, if you can include me. And what do you make of Perlini? And I mean, it's preseason. I think Matheson came out with a tweet that I thought was a bit of a hot take on I don't know if you read it, but about Ratty playing in Sweden. I think the two are a little bit different. Ratty played, of course, with McDavid in preseason when he was scoring all those goals. Perlini seems to, and he's done it before, right? He scored some goals in the league, and so he can score goals. Look, I think here's my take, and I'm curious to hear yours. But my take is if he scores even half of what at half the rate he's doing now, or a quarter, right? I mean, he's a goal a game right now. So if he could score 10, that's better than our third and fourth line depth have done in previous years. I'd be happy with that. But do you think this is? Are we seeing a player that's going to be a good depth scorer for the Oilers, or is this just a shot in the dark with preseason?
Well, first, can we talk about the welding mask he's got on? How have I never seen this before? He's got the Danny Heatley visor on. I had no clue about that. But no, funny enough, Perlini, great guy too. We got to talk to him in the off season. And one of the things that he mentioned multiple times was just being comfortable. And I believe, I didn't listen to the whole post-game presser the other night, but again, he talks about just being comfortable, knowing Dave Tippett, knowing kind of what he's expected to do. He's seen multiple realms, multiple leagues. He just knows what to expect, right? And there's that comfortable factor with Tippett of this is what he expects me to do, and if I do this, he's going to reward me with this. Now, I mean, get it? I think Ennis made a great pass to him on the goal last night, but you don't score those goals if you don't know where you're supposed to be. If he's floating around the top of the circle, the hash marks, wherever, no, he's got a nose for the net now. He knows where to go. He's not a 21-year-old rookie anymore trying to crack into the league after a couple of huge years of juniors. No, this is a guy who's been around the map. He went over to Switzerland, played in a league where the goal scoring is very low. It's hard to come by. You can look at how Kubalik and those guys have done when they transition over to Chicago. It's a pretty natural touch. So now you put him in that fourth line role, and everyone knows the NHL is changing. I'm an old school hockey fan. Anyone who's watched World Hockey Report knows that. But now you need production from your fourth line. If your fourth line's just crashing and banging, you're likely not going that far in the playoffs. I even look at a Pat Maroon in Tampa. He still provides offensively. He still sets up chances. And so what you can get from Brendan Perlini this season, it's a lot more than you can get from a Ty Ratty. because he doesn't need to be shadowed by a Connor McDavid. He doesn't need to play with Leon Draisaitl. He's going to do stuff himself. And you watch Perlini one night, he might not be there, but the next night he might have a goal and an assist. And if you're getting that from your fourth line, as you said, at a 25% pace that he's currently at right now, you're laughing at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, if he can be anywhere near what he's at, I mean, he's not going to be a goal a game. There's no doubt about that. But if he can do a quarter of that, I mean, I would be laughing. It would be great.
He's got 10, 15 goals. He's on a 2-way contract right now. Like, you can't convince me. And I think Tyler Benson has done a good job coming into camp and stuff, but he hasn't stuck out. You can't convince me you'd rather see Tyler Benson in the lineup on any given night compared to Brendan Perlini, where Perlini has that factor that he can score, he can change games, he can be a difference maker. I don't see that in Kyle Turris even right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, Perlini's obviously set himself from the pack. That brings up something interesting. I mean, what are the Oilers to do with Benson? I mean, he's kind of a victim of circumstance more than anything, right? I mean, here's a guy that, he just doesn't play the way you need him to play if he's going to be bottom six, right? And yet you can't put him in your top two lines because he's just not that good to play there today. So he's kind of, somewhere in between, and there is no in between. So what do you do with him? I mean, he's got to clear waivers, if I'm not mistaken, if he goes down.
Well, that's the thing is I think Tippett kind of has the conversation. Maybe it's Holland and his agent, and they say, hey, do you want to stick it out and try earn a spot on our lineup, or do you want to go to Arizona? It's that simple. It is, do you want to be here, or do you want to go try play somewhere else where it's going to be easier for you to get in the lineup? Because here it's not going to be easy, because the Oilers have known for years and years that they need to improve their depth up front. They finally have. And now they're going, well, we put so much time into him that maybe we should keep him around. Maybe we should give him a couple extra chances. No, you're in win now mode, and you're putting your best 12 forwards in the lineup. It's that simple.
Hey, I got you for another minute there, Cody, and I just want to get your opinion on this. What's if you had to today kind of look at what's happened in camp? Who's your biggest disappointment? Who's the one you're most surprised at outside of Perlini? We know Perlini's big surprise, but biggest disappointment in camp so far?
Biggest disappointment in camp. Well, I've watched a few games, and I hate to throw it on Cody Ceci early, but I want to see more of him this season. I feel like if he is your number 6 defenseman, I feel like that was a waste of an offseason move. I really want to see Cody Ceci make a little bit of a bigger impact. And that's at both ends of the ice. I don't want to see him floating around. I don't want to see a guy. I forget the contract term now. What was it? Over $3 million, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to see a $3+ million defenseman float around out there. I could see someone do that for $800K. I can see Slater Cuckoo do that for a third of the price, right?
And Cuckoo's been outstanding, right? Like, I mean, for what you get from him, right? Like, he's the guy, right? He's our new, I can't believe Matt Benning, right? Like,
that's the thing is that if you're getting the same out of Slater Cuckoo and Cody Ceci, now you got to start questioning the offseason move by Ken Holland. And I'm sorry, it's way too early to do that. But again, he has not stuck out like I hoped him to, especially in preseason where you're playing weaker lineups. As for who has stuck out, in a good way, I'd say Puljujarvi. I think he's moving faster than ever. I think he's reading the game better than ever. And I think he's finally, not to say that he's just getting his confidence, but he's getting that swagger in the NHL. And you can really tell when someone flips a switch from being a good hockey player to a good NHLer. And that's what I'm seeing from Jesse Puljujarvi is he's really got that knack for I belong here.
Yeah.
Not just I'm here, it's I belong here. And that's what I'm seeing from him this year. And that's why I think that 25 goals is in the realm easily.
Excellent. Well, great to hear. Hey, I know you want to get out and watch the game tonight. Who are you rooting for quickly, Boston or Yankees?
I can't root for the pinstripes. No, it's as much as I'm a Cubs guy, so I'm rooting for Rizzo and Schwarber. But again, I'd rather see Boston move on.
All right. Well, awesome. Thanks for joining me tonight, Cody.
Michael, you're the man. Yeah. Enjoy it. Appreciate it. You got a great show going.
Excellent. Thanks. Have a great night. And that was Mr. Cody Johnson from World Hockey Report joining me. I'm going to have as my guest in about 9 minutes' time a fellow who does the Res Hockey podcast. So check him out. His name's Trev, and he does Res Hockey podcast. If you want to follow him, I think it's just Res Hockey Pod. Let me double check this quickly, but or it's at res_hockey. And if you want to follow Cody, which I know a lot of you are, he's got a pretty popular show on there. You can follow him at World Hockey RPT, or World Hockey Report is where he's at. He's got a great show. He goes, I think. Let me get this right here. He goes live noon, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays on 12-Ounce Sports and on Zingo TV. Cody's got a top-notch show. He's done a lot of great things. I love interacting with him. Guy knows his hockey. It's just a ton of fun. And you know what he does? He kind of covers everything, and he's got some great guests on there. Does a really good job, so I enjoy both of them. But if you got a chance, check out at res_hockey, and Trev's going to be my guest in about 8 minutes' time. He does weekly, or not weekly, but he does podcasts with Indigenous players, around the league and otherwise, just guys that play hockey. And he came highly recommended from my friend Name, who is from Indigenous Rookie Cards. And so thanks, Name. I thought I'd get Trev on for tonight's show. And tonight's show, by the way, is pretty special for me because this is a night where we have launched heavyhockey.com. So I want you to go to heavyhockey.com. Obviously, check it out. We've got one article posted by Eric Friesen today. It's about who's going to finish third in scoring for the Oilers, which I think is a great topic of conversation because we know who's number one and who's number two. So a lot of things there going on. You got Hyman, who's going to be playing a lot with McDavid this year. You got Puljujarvi, who, as Cody was just saying, looks great and could get 25 this year, pot 25. You got Tyson Barrie, who, if he continues his pace on the power play, he could easily finish third on the team. Always perennial favorite, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins on there. Darnell Nurse, maybe. He had a hell of a year. I expect bigger and better things from him. Who knows, right? Like, there's lots of options on the Oilers for the first time in a long time. I was looking at that lineup last night. What Cody said about Cody Ceci, true, right? You expect more from him. I think we're going to get more come regular season, but this team looks pretty solid, and they got to get their defensive piece in the works, and I think they can do it. I think they can put that all together. You've got Keith, who hasn't played a lot of games yet and hasn't been on the ice for a little while with the team. So now that he's there and he's doing that, I expect more out of him as well. Anyway, check out, again, heavyhockey.com. Check out Eric's article. And then we've got a couple more articles coming up. We've got some great writers. We've got Ryan Lotzberg, who used to do the podcast for Edmonton Oil Drops. He used to do a little blog for Edmonton Oil Drops. I've got Zane Bonji, who was a contributor for a lot of different hockey sites, including the Hockey Writers. I've got Matthew Evans. Some of you know him as Mevs or O Boomer. He does a lot of great little GIFs and media content. And then, of course, we've got the guys that do all the podcasts and the writing. Eric Friesen, actually, who's going to be writing lots for me and doing other things, is also on there. And Eric's been great. He's going to be leading the charge when it comes to the writing and editing and picking what kind of content we have. So take a look at that and tell us what you think. Give me some feedback. Send me some feedback at Oilerslive. Send me some feedback in the chat. Thanks, Name. Website it looks great. It's good. We're going to do a lot of different things on there. I've got Spencer Pomodi. He's going to start doing some prospect stuff. I'm going to be starting, hopefully soon, a podcast on the Halifax Mooseheads, which is where I'm located now. So we'll do a little bit of Halifax Mooseheads and go from there. So lots of different and exciting things happening there. We'll continue to do the live streams with Straight Off the Pipe with Dash and Durst. They're going to be moving to Sunday nights, and I'll continue on Tuesday nights. I'm going to have to figure something out, though, come game times, what I'm going to do, if I'm going to go after post-game or pre-game, or, switch nights, I noticed there's some games Tuesday nights, maybe switch to Wednesday nights. We'll figure that out as we go. And the Heavy Hockey Network will continue to evolve. And if you're looking at all to join or to be a part of this, please reach out to me. I'd love to, talk to other people, whether they want to do some writing or they want to do maybe live streams or podcasts. I'm always happy to help out and could always use new content. Of course, we'll kind of go through a little bit of a vetting process to make sure that everything looks good. I am going to move here right away to get Trevor's on and joined. We're going to get him on right away, and just make sure. Give me about half a second, and we'll get him back. Stay tuned for about 2 seconds.
Oilerslive podcast. Oilerslive podcast. Oilerslive podcast. Oilerslive podcast. Now, get ready to talk hockey. Streaming from the Oilers Live Studio. Subscribe or follow today.
Hey, we've got Mr. Trevor Eisterhoff. Did I say that right, Trevor? All right, awesome. Well, pleasure to have you on, and thank you for joining us. Mr. You're one of two, right? One of the co-hosts of Res Hockey. You've got a partner, do you, that does that? All right. Well, we'll have to get Bush on sometime as well. I just came across you recently, and of course, one of my good friends, Name, who has the Indigenous rookie card collection. He spoke highly of you guys, and so I was looking at your site. Oh, sorry. You know what? I had you on mute. So thanks to Name pointing out they can't hear you. So funny because you said some of the most brilliant stuff just now.
It happens.
Appreciate having you on though. So again, we'll just carry on from here. But we had I've had Name on a couple of times, and I talked to Name. I'm actually 50% Cree myself, and so I've got I don't know if you know, but I've got my own rookie card out that's going into the next Upper Deck, my MVP set. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Nice.
Yeah, and so I'm sending that out to Name. It's not it'll probably be the least valuable in his collection, but it's still pretty exciting to have a hockey card that some poor kid's gonna open and see my face looking back at them. Yeah. So how long you been doing the podcast for?
Originally, I wanted to start the podcast in January, but I got ill, so I had to delay the show, and we are 15 episodes in. So this week will be episode number 16. So we've been 2 months and some change into doing the podcast.
Oh, right on. No, that's great. 16 episodes is huge. That's a lot of people. Now, is it every episode you interview an Indigenous player?
As of right now, yeah, but we're going to switch it up a bit. I know some non-natives who want to be on the show and share their stories, and I'm all for it. So yeah, we're going to have different people just share their stories as past guests on the show.
Oh, right on. Yeah. So I think it's great. I mean, obviously, we've had this conversation. Name has brought a lot of recognition to Indigenous players, both in the NHL and otherwise. Guys that in fact, you had a young guy that is playing in Seattle, right? What's his name?
Connor Roulette.
Yeah. So, there's some up and coming players, obviously. And then, I don't know if you're an Oilers fan, but a lot of Oilers fans, of course, knew Ethan Bear, who's now, of course, out in Carolina, and we wish him the best. But there are a lot of Indigenous players, and some that you don't realize are, or like Grant Fuhr, of course, and Theron Fleury, and some other guys that not everybody realizes have some Indigenous ancestry. And it's great, right? That it's great to see that somebody else is out there promoting that. I think what's interesting, Trevor, is we're going through a point in our lives, and in that social media has become such a big thing. Twitter, of course, can have it can be just as toxic as it can be fun and exciting. Lots is being made of hockey culture in recent years. You grew up playing hockey, did you, Trevor?
Yeah, I grew up playing in Thunder Bay. I played AAA, played junior, played senior, and whatnot. So I grew up playing the game. My dad played the game. A lot of families. So yeah, I grew up watching and playing the game.
Yeah, and in your experience, do you think it's getting better out there, like hockey culture, or do you think it's the same, worse? I mean, over the past year, we've done a lot, right? Like we've, I can't remember the name of the group that they put in place for the NHL, the Diversity Alliance. Is that what they've called it?
Yeah, that's what they're called.
Yeah. Do you think it's getting better, or do you think it's about the same, or what's your take on it?
I think we're moving the right way. We're moving forward, and I think we're moving slowly, but just as long as we're moving forward, it's totally different compared to back like the 90s and 80s. But what's helping a lot is social media, Facebook, Twitter, and whatnot, everything else. People are understanding, and they're knowing and starting to learn the history of our past and racism, really. And so it is, I can see it that we're moving forward, which is really good.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's my take on it. I think that sometimes we can focus on what seems like a real, there's a lot of really loud people out there that are not maybe moving forward, but you kind of, if you can drown them out and really look and have a look at the majority of people, I think there's a lot of great people out there, and a lot of people that are in hockey that I think there's a lot of hope that hockey culture is maybe turning a corner. I can tell you, and this might be a bit of a hot take for some, but the hockey culture here in Nova Scotia is certainly better than it was in Alberta when I was playing there. And I play a lot of hockey, and I can tell you the locker rooms are different here. The folks are a little bit more accepting, and I think it's good, and I've really appreciated that fact about being out here. But I still think there's a little ways to go, and I think folks like yourself that are putting good content out and name, and there's a couple other people on Twitter that I follow. Indigenous Hockey, I think is the guy. I don't. Yeah. Anyway, there's some really good folks out there that are putting the right content out and making for some really good conversations. So I want to thank you for that, because I've just looked at some of what you've had to put out in the past or recently, and it's great. Like, give some of these guys a voice, right? That wouldn't otherwise have a voice. Yeah. Who is the out of all the people you've talked to? Is there one that was most memorable?
I think Mr. Harry York. Harry's from Alberta boy, and he played for St. Louis, the Rangers, the Penguins, and the Canucks, and he had some great stories. Hilarious guy. He's the only one so far that was on the show twice, so he had some good stories to share.
Right on. Well, just if you ever need somebody on the show, don't forget, you can always ask me.
For sure.
So, what are you? Who's your favorite team? There's only one right answer, by the way. Only one right answer. No. You can tell.
Do I want to say it? But I love the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Man.
I bleed blue and white, and I've always been a fan. Unfortunately, I was named on. My father named me after defenseman Trevor Johansson, a defenseman from the 70s. So, yeah, my family's a true Leafs family.
So let's talk about something that we all know about. It's Hyman, right?
Yeah.
And you watched Hyman play obviously last year. He played with Matthews, played with that. What kind of player do you think we're getting?
He's a hard player. Like, he's going to go in the corner. He's going to get that puck, and he's that dirty player that he'll totally dig out that puck in front of the net. He'll get a lot of garbage goals, but a goal is a goal in the show. I'll be happy with if I ever had a garbage goal in the league. So, and I think with playing with McDavid, he's going to get like 35 goals easy.
Yeah, I don't know if you tuned in when Cody was on, but he brings up a good point. You'd know this. You played pretty competitive hockey. But there are certain guys out there that I've played with them throughout my life and playing hockey, and they can't skate, they can't do anything, but they get like 30 goals a season or something, right? And they just have a knack for being in the right place at the right time. And I'm not, and the difference obviously with Hyman is he can skate, he's got a lot of heart, he's got a lot of energy. And he's a hell of a likable guy. Like, is there a likable person in the league? I don't know, but I think he's going to be a good player for the Oilers. Were you sad to see him go?
Oh, I was totally sad. I wish they would have had enough money in the cap to try to save him, but it's a business. So I'm happy that he's in another Canadian city. Even though it's with the Oilers.
So tell me, like last year, did that do something in terms of the rivalry between Edmonton and Toronto? Because you're cheering for a team that all Canadians hate, right? Like, if you don't love Edmonton, if you don't love Toronto, you hate Toronto, right?
Exactly.
I don't think the Oilers are that team, although they're close. The Habs kind of have that same sort of thing, right? You either love the Habs or you hate them. But those are two, very old, got a lot of tradition type of teams. Do you feel like the rivalry, though, after last year was good, like for Edmonton and Toronto? Like, I love a good rivalry. Like, if you're a Maple Leafs fan and you hate the Oilers, I respect that, right? Like, I respect the rivalry. Like, I always tell people, if you're a Flames fan, you got to respect the rivalry. Don't be cheering for Edmonton if they make it into the Stanley Cup Finals, right? Like, that's not your place. You should be cheering for them to lose, because the rivalry is there for a reason. It's it's fun, it's exciting, and I don't believe this flying the Canadian flag thing when it comes to Stanley Cup. In fact, I'd rather not see another Canadian team win the Stanley Cup if it's not the Oilers. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I do like a good rivalry, and I think every Canadian city has their true fans. And once the Canadian cities play each other, I don't want to say hate. Hate's a powerful word, but they don't like each other. But yeah, I agree with you. It's Habs Habs are number one for dislike teams. I don't know why is it like that, but yeah, like my co-host Bush, she's a big Oilers fan, and we chirp each other all the time. But yeah, it can get friendly, but at the same time, it can get pretty nasty. But it brings out the best of everyone, though. It's all laughs and having a good time.
Yeah, it does bring out the best of everyone, as long as you realize that it's a game, right? Like, and you're not, you don't take it too far. I think
exactly.
I think enjoying the rivalry. In fact, tonight we've got a little bit of a Oilers Twitter fantasy hockey league going on, and there's in the background in the Twitter DMs, there's a lot of chirping going on. And at the end of the day, I mean, you're out there trying to get the best chirp in, but you love the guys that you're competing against. You like them, and it's just like hockey, right? You can get out there, play your heart out, even drop the mitts with somebody. And then if you're a drinker, I'm not, but you could go and have a beer with them, as I've seen in senior hockey, a million times. Guys, they drop their mitts in the game, and then they go home and or go to the pub after and drop a beer with somebody, right? And have a beer with somebody. And that's hockey, right? And there's nothing more Canadian.
Exactly.
Right? Like, I think that's awesome. Yeah. So when you played, what did you play?
I was a defenseman, and I wasn't really much of a goal scorer or a puck moving defenseman. I was one of those guys that was that like to drop the gloves, and I would give you a good hack here and there if you deserved it.
Nice. Yeah, I wish that I think that forwards always deserve it when they're in front of the net.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I'm getting a little bit of conversation. I don't know if you're able to turn your volume up just a touch. Some people are having a little bit of trouble hearing you.
Okay.
Maybe just see if you can turn that up just a touch. Let's see if I can do anything on my side. If I can, then I will.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit better. I mean,
okay.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So let's hope people can hear you better. I think that once I put the recording out on podcast, it'd be just because I can tell my audio levels, but I don't know where everybody else is. So we're streaming live right now. Tell me something else. Then you think Toronto has a legit shot this year? Do you think they got better, or do you think they got a little bit worse in the offseason? What's your take?
I think it's tough because they lost Hyman, and they lost, like, one guy I like was Bogosian. He was he's a stay-at-home defenseman, and he left. So, like, who's going to replace him as that stay-at-home defenseman leadership type? So it's hard to say. I really, after losing to the Habs in the playoffs, I don't know where, like, I don't want to set high expectations and just be disappointed again. So I don't know. We'll see after October, I guess, how things pan out. But being a Leafs fan, it's hard.
What's your take on the? I'm not gonna, and you might hate me for saying this, but I don't think Matthews is in the same boat as McDavid. I don't know if you agree with that or not. But what's your take on the Matthews versus Draisaitl conversation? Who would you take?
Oh, I'd pick Draisaitl. I think that guy's in another universe. He's so good, man. You can't get him off the puck. He's just really strong. He has a good shot. Yeah, so I'd pick, even though I love the Leafs and Matthews, I'd pick Draisaitl.
Yeah, and here we'll have a little bit of a love-in between Toronto fans and Oilers fans, because I would totally pick Draisaitl 100%. But I will tell you that Matthews' shot, there's nothing else like it in this league, and it drives me insane. I think Leafs fans do this, and Oilers fans do it, but I don't think hockey fans do this, and that's respect a guy for the skill that he has, right? So, like, I asked you because I was curious, right? Some guys would would say Matthews just because they're Leafs fans, right? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in there's some Oilers fans who would say Draisaitl because they're Oilers fans. I think it's somewhere in the middle. I do think Draisaitl's better, not because I'm an Oilers fan, but I'm a hockey fan. And as a hockey fan, I can appreciate the skill level that Matthews brings to the league, right? Like the guy has an unbelievable shot. He's going to be, year over year, he's going to be fighting for that Rocket Richard trophy. I just think, when you compare the two, Draisaitl's got, maybe a more complete game and the scoring touch. But look, if I had Matthews on my team, I wouldn't be complaining, right? Like that's the thing, right? Like, and that's the part that I don't get, right? Like it's like you can't appreciate. And in fact, I had Cody on recently, and he said, we were talking about goal scorers like Hyman, right? That just find the right place at the right time. Anytime I have this little joke that I say on the pod all the time, when a guy gets his first goal, I always say, damn, they've now scored one more goal than me in the NHL. That's kind of the way I look at it. We got Robert on YouTube. He says, I truly wish we could just appreciate the skill without labels. Maybe one day soon we'll all get there. I think that's true, right?
It is true, yes.
Yeah. Now, what's your take on this whole Marner thing? I mean, us Oilers fans, we're looking at this. As you can sit there. Do you spend a lot of time on Twitter?
Yeah, I do. Recently, I have, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it can be incredibly toxic. And so if you like your team, you can sit there and you can watch fans to completely demolish players on there, and talk about them as if they're nobody, right? We were talking about Koskinen, who's goaltender or backup, right? In Edmonton, and he had a bad year last year. He had, he was known for letting in the first goal, and certainly you get upset. But I always hesitate to say that guy is garbage, right, or something like that, comments like that, and I hesitate because I've never played in the NHL, right? Like, I've played against guys and I've played with guys like alumni and that. And I've played against guys that have played in the NHL, and they're at a completely different level. The worst of them is better than me. And so for me to say that guy's garbage seems a little bit, like, I don't know. I mean, like, who am I to say? And so that guy might not be good enough to be on the team, right? Like, that's a different kind of statement. Right? Or that guy doesn't have the skill level to be on this team, or that guy's, maybe skill level isn't where it should be to be, a second liner. That's a different conversation altogether. But comments like that guy's garbage just sort of get to me because I think, they're certainly playing at a lot higher level than I've ever been able to. So, but do you find this, and where I was going with this is, do you find people are being a little too hard on Marner lately?
Yeah, especially last playoffs, like against Montreal, he didn't perform as well as people thought, and he didn't show up really. Like, and people, like, they took shots at him on social media, and people were going to his house in Toronto, and they were taking it way too far. He's human like you and I. He makes mistakes like you and I. So people just forget, like, he's a young kid too. He's his early 20s, so he's going to make mistakes.
Crazy, right? So, they are just kids.
Yes. Yeah. And people just got to remember that they make mistakes like everyone else. So
yeah, I 100%. I didn't realize people went to his place, but I can tell you this, like, I'm not going to defend Oilers fans here. McDavid was out at a restaurant a couple of years ago and the Oilers weren't doing so well, and some people were heckling him while he was out with his parents. So, there are hockey fans everywhere that just take it a little bit too far. And it's a fun sort of pastime for us hockey fans to pick on other people's hockey fans, right? Like, if I go to Toronto, I'd get back and tell everybody, Toronto fans are the worst. Or if I go to Calgary, Calgary fans are the worst, and Oilers fans aren't so bad. But we have got our share. I've seen some pretty bad shit go down at Oilers games between fans and I've been to Flames fans always talk about how great their fans are. I've been to a lot of Flames games where Flames fans haven't been so appreciative of my Oilers garb. Yeah, so that's just the way it is, right? I think there's a lot of bad fans out there, but there's a lot of great ones. Yeah. What's your who do you think are the teams to beat this year? You think like Tampa's in another class of its own? Are they going to be close to doing a repeat this year? Do you think Chicago? Like where do you think is going to happen with Chicago? They got the Jones brothers there now, and of course they've got Fleury. Are they going to come back and do something better?
I think they are. They have a healthy Jonathan Toews back. I live in Kenora, Ontario, and Jonathan lives like off the lake pretty much all summer, and he wasn't here at all this summer. So he's really looking forward to the season. So I think with him being back, he's the captain, he's a backbone of that team, and I think they're gonna have a good run this year. And I think they might take it. I would pick them out of the West, and maybe even though I don't want I live 2 hours from Winnipeg, so I think Winnipeg might be the team that wins it all.
Oh man,
I know, right?
It was good having you on the show, but
I like Winnipeg.
No, you know what? They've got a good team, and they've certainly got the goaltending right. Like this is. Yeah. There's certainly nothing wrong with their goaltending. I'm giving you a hard time, Trevor, but
I know.
Oh man, Chicago and then Winnipeg, and I'm not hearing anything about the Oilers. This is an Oilers live stream, right?
Yeah, I know. Bush and I went to go see the Oilers and Winnipeg play last week, and it was a good game.
Oh, you were at that game? Good.
Yeah, Winnipeg played everyone. They had all their big shots.
They were at
their hired guns. Yeah, and it was the only person I knew off of Edmonton was Bouchard.
Yeah,
But that kid's a good defenseman.
He is a good defenseman, and he's got a pretty good future in the league. I'm convinced and that he is going to hurt somebody really bad with his slap shot one day. The thing with Bouchard is he finds a way to get pucks to the net. But he is also he's got one hell of a wicked shot when he lets it go, and it flies. It goes, it rises quite a bit, and I think that I think that I just feel like he's going to really hurt somebody one day. He put up unreal numbers in junior, though, and he's. The knock on him has always been defense, but I don't think people have given him a lot of credit. He's worked on it. He's maturing. He looks like he's 80 years old, by the way. Hey, I've got Rob on YouTube. Did you watch any of the Calgary Oilers highlights from last night?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, just in the game. There was Connor McDavid went and zipped past the D-man, and Tanev, who's playing D for Calgary. It was a lot like a regular season game last night, I thought. But Connor went, past the D-man, and then Tanev came around and kind of, I guess, like a moving can opener type of play into Connor's legs, and he went flying into Markstrom in the net. And the Oilers scored on the play, but no penalty was being called. And Calgary actually reviewed it, but said that Connor was tripped and going into the net. And they, there's for the first time in a while, right? Connor actually talked about it after the game, and he's, you can tell me this. I find Connor McDavid to be about as boring an interview as anybody I've ever seen. And that's with a lot, I say that with a ton of respect. He is a product, 110%. He is a product, right? I'm sure his agents, everybody around him have talked to him his whole life about what he can and can't say. And he chooses his words very wisely, to the point, though, where he doesn't always stick up for himself. Well, last night in the post-game presser, he brought up the play that Tanev put out there, and he said, this guy, like, defensemen have to be aware of where their stick is, and it's a he didn't call it a dirty play, but it's a dangerous play. He's left, flying into the goalie, so he could get hurt. The goalie could get hurt because he's flying into the goalie. And the guy that puts his stick into the legs, nothing, right?
Yeah.
So, I guess, what's your thought? I mean, is this maybe I should switch things because you didn't see the play. But I guess what I'm curious about, because this is kind of a thing that I think Connor McDavid's finally kind of upset about. And you can answer this either by Connor McDavid standards or by, think about Marner or Matthews or whatever. Like, are we doing enough in the league to protect guys like Connor McDavid or Austin Matthews or Mitch Marner, right? Are we doing enough? Are we calling enough calls? Or, even McDavid talked about, the cross-checking being called in preseason, but expecting it to go away once regular season comes. What's your thought? Is the league doing enough to protect its stars?
I don't think they are, because they're allowing players to keep doing what they've been doing, the slashing, the cross-checking, and it's going to cost the league. I don't want none of these top end players to get hurt, because there goes the club's revenue. There goes the view, the ratings on TV. So it's going to hurt them in the long run, just not the team, but the whole league. And a lot of fans don't want their top players to get hurt as well. So, and I don't think the league is doing enough, but with the cross checking, I hope it continues during the season, but it's hard to say, but I would like to see something more, because I don't want no one, especially the top players that the kids love and want to watch, get hurt and sit the season.
Yeah, and these guys are doing things that, I don't know how old you are, Trevor, but I'm in my 40s. I remember, minor hockey playing and the practices we had. And then I've gone out and I've watched some of the practices they have today. It's a completely different game, right? And it is the skill level on these kids from a young age is off the charts, right? It's stuff that we didn't even know. I don't even think they had a name for the toe drag when we were growing up, right? Like these guys are good. Right. I mean, you can't teach hockey sense. I mean, I've played with enough alumni to know that, they would have been able to play in today's game just as much as they could play in the old game. They would have just learned the skills, right? Like they were natural. Yeah. Well, no, I don't believe in the natural athlete thing, but they worked hard enough to be where they were at, and they had the hockey sense to do it. But I do believe that we need to protect the players. Rob on YouTube says we should have answered the bell or we had to answer the bell if we did something dirty. I think that's that's a part that's out of the game that used to be there. I just think that there's got to be more to be done. Whether it's I think what Rob's implying on the YouTube broadcast is that we maybe get rid of the instigator rule or something like that, or maybe bring back the enforcers. I don't know what the answer is, but, we've watched really skilled players get hurt. And I think as a hockey fan, right? Like if I watched Austin Matthews get hurt, even though I'm not a Leafs fan, right? And when Austin's playing Edmonton, I hate Matthews, right? Right? But I hate him. I hate him only because he's on the opposition. But do I want to watch the highlights that this guy puts together year after year? Yeah, hell yeah. Right? Like I want to see, as a hockey fan, I want to see this type of skill. I think that, the NHL, that's the skill they should be marketing, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Because I love watching the Oilers. I love watching McDavid get that puck and just skate down the wing and score a goal. Like, he's one of a few that can do that in the league, and so they have to promote it. They have to put him on a pedestal and just like, here, like, and just everyone just feed off him because he's that good, and not too many other players can do that in the league. So just go with it and let him shine.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. You know what, Trevor, we're at the end of the hour here, and I want to thank you for joining me. This is evidence to those of you that listened in today that not all Leafs fans are bad.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Michael. It was fun.
Yeah, no, it was a great time. Before we go, I do like to let my guests kind of have the last say, and then I shut it down. And I wouldn't mind if you stayed on for a couple minutes just so I could chat with you quickly before you go, if you have the time. But as I said, I like you say the last words. Kind of love to hear what you've got up next for Res Hockey. Let everybody know where they can find you, and then just wish everyone a good night. And I'll throw the end screen on, and we're good to go when you're ready.
We have a Facebook page called Res Hockey. We don't have our website yet. I'm still trying to work on that, but we're on. The podcast is on Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeart, and all that. Pretty much every iPod podcast available, and we're once a week. And this week we'll have former NHLer Rich Pilon on the show, which should be a great episode.
All right. Well, your turn. You say good night.
All right. Good night, Oilers Nation. It's going to be a good season. Good luck, and all the best from a loyal Leafs fan.
Oilerslive podcast. Oilerslive podcast.
Recording stopped.